Welcome along to a game of two halves. We are here for the second half here over on DR Sports, and I am joined by Mark Goldbridge. Last week, I remember when he joined, he said how great a mood he was in for the Monday. We know how football works. 1 week is a long time in football, right? And I don't think he's going to be in similar mood this morning, especially after his manager at the end of the game described his team as the worst ever Manchester United team. We're going to be looking back at the weekend's games, but let's start with that, Mark. Manchester United humbled at home by Brighton. We'll get over on your channel and we'll be updating people on Friday. We do predictions before the game starts. Point. And, you know, I'm thinking about it. There were some that you got spot on. There's some that I got spot on. But we'll deal with that on Friday when you update us back on the results. But I did say to you that Brighton, based off of what I saw Southampton do, were going to be a more trickier customer, and they were, weren't they? Brighton running out 3-1 winners.
Yeah, look, I mean, I did our preview on the United stand, and I said, look, you know what? I'm just going to own it. Like, they are favourites. I thought we would win because United, you never know. But I said Brighton, they're better. I mean, look, Man United are where they are because they're not very good. Like we're 13th, and we've been 13th for weeks. You know, I've seen Arsenal in the bottom half, Chelsea for a week or two, and you go, they'll be out there in no time. We've been there for most of the season because Fulham, Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth, Forest, they're all better than us. And Brighton yesterday, I mean, they had a goal disallowed, which it was a foul, but it was lucky. We had one shot on goal, which was a penalty at Old Trafford. And, you know, the most creative player for us was the referee. We were looking for him to give us another penalty. It was like, you know, that was the only way we were going to score. So credit to Brighton, you've got to say that. But from a United point of view, I've got to say for the first time I looked at the relegation zone and I don't believe
relegation zone.
Yeah, no, I don't believe it. But, you know, you just have to have a little check. You know, when you're driving in your car and you've gone past a knobhead on the motorway, you just check back to see if they're going to come back. And I was like looking at relegation last night and I went, no, we're 10 points ahead. We've got 26, I think. I don't see Ipswich or Leicester getting 36. So, no, that won't happen. But that's how bad we are, Robbie. That's how bad. Yeah, that's how bad we are. We are so bad.
So you agree with him? Worst ever Manchester United team. In all the years you've been watching Man United, is this the worst ever?
I think it's close between when Rangnick was here because the players down tools there, they fell out. It was very, very toxic. But there are similarities because Rangnick said, you know, he was just really honest with the fans. He was like, we need open heart surgery. They're not good enough. They're not good enough to play the way I want to play. This club needs massive change. I think Amorim is basically doing the same, but in a more clever way because I'll ask you, but my thoughts are that for a manager to come out and say this is the worst ever team when he's lost 8 out of 10, that takes balls, I think. And I think what he's basically saying is, look, I'll take responsibility. I'm the manager, but this team ain't good enough. And what's going above me ain't good enough. So, yeah, I'll take responsibility. But the reality is, I look at it and I just think there's a lot more of these results to come, Robbie, definitely. Like, you'll beat us easily at Old Trafford.
I look on it, though, and say to myself, you're in charge. All right, I know you may not have inherited what you want to inherit, and there's a lot that you want to improve, obviously. But 8 out of 10 defeats in the league or in since you've come in, that's really, really poor, isn't it? And why is it that they're able to get up for, you know, Arsenal away, Liverpool away, but then when it's your bread and butter, they can't? And again, it's also, I have to just, again, look at that system, 3 at the back system. When you're playing against a team like Brighton, that like midfield-wise, they rampage around with 3 players in there and you've only got 2, aren't you putting yourself at serious risk?
Yeah, but I do agree with you. But you know what? To coin an analogy, it's a little bit like, you know, when you go out for a night out with your best mates and you're up for it, and then, you know, the missus says we're off around the mother-in-laws. It's not quite the same, is it? And I think United, when it's Arsenal, it's like this is a big game, and it's not an excuse for a professional footballer paid that amount of money to put a Man United shirt or an Arsenal shirt. You know, the fans pay their money. The ticket prices have just gone up to watch this rubbish at United. So I get that, but the question I would throw to everybody watching, and you, Robbie, is like, yeah, I get it, but I as a United fan, I don't look at, he's not picking Casemiro and Rashford. That's not a mistake. They've had their chance. That's not going to make any difference. The only thing is, does he change a formation? But I just think, well, look, that's only going to, it's not going to put us in the top 4. It might put us in the top half, but he was brought in to play a certain system. And I would rather we stuck with it than go back to a system that suits these crap players because they want to play a back 4 and counter-attack. I don't think United fans want to see that. So I'm actually in this situation now, whereas I would rather it just keep getting worse until something happens, because it can't get much worse. And I don't want to grind out draws or that against Fulham next week. I'd rather we just went down this road and you know, we need change. I look at what Man City have done in this January transfer window. Pep's had a bad month. Let's get the checkbook out. I mean, United have spent a lot of money, but they've spent it badly. We've not had a left back for 18 months. You can't. I mean, I know we're going to talk about Arsenal, and you saw you at the weekend having to put players in positions that they're not used to. I can't believe a club of Man United stature think it's okay not to have a left back for 18 months. It's a fundamental balance of your team.
Yeah, no. Another manager that's under serious pressure. Well, your manager's, sorry.
You'd be happy about this one.
Your manager's not under pressure yet, right? It's just that, what he's, the focus was on your manager because what he said after the game. But in the case of this manager, he's under pressure, and that's Ange Postecoglou at Tottenham. I mean, I was watching Expressions yesterday on his stream. He's absolutely losing it. He wanted all of them sacked. Even when they got 2 goals back in the second half, he said, I don't care, even if they come back. This is disgraceful. They end up losing 3-2. They were 3-0 down to Everton. Yeah. We all know, right? They're not the sort of team that puts 3 past teams in the first half. I mean, it was shocking by Spurs in that first half. The manager after the game in his press conference was his usual spiky self as well. He doesn't seem to handle these press conferences very good. No eye contact, head down, always angry about certain questions being asked. He's on thin ice, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, we were losing, and then I saw Everton were beating them 3-0. It didn't make me feel any better, but I thought, bloody hell, Ange's in trouble. But I mean, I find it interesting that Spurs fans want him gone, because from the outside in, this is Spurs, and you've tried Mourinho, Conte, Nunez. Look what he's doing at Forest. You've got Ange. I actually think all the Spurs fans that want Ange sacked, they deserve him to be sacked. And I really, really hope they get Southgate, because then they'll understand what torture is. But I look, he 100% is putting in results that will get him the sack. But I do have sympathy with him, because he was the guy a year ago when they played Man City who fell out with the players and the fans because they wanted to lose to stop you winning the league when they could have got Champions League football. So if he ends up getting sacked, I'll look at it and go, well, he was the guy who had the right mentality. He wanted to try and win things. And the same old Spurs, this weak mentality, as long as Arsenal don't do anything. And I've just put it on the players. I think that the Spurs players, even the likes of Son, who I think is a fantastic player, there's something in them it's acceptable. We spoke about United, how they can get up to certain games. It's the same with Spurs. How can they go to the Etihad and win? Or how can they put in a performance against Arsenal or whatever? And then, they go to Everton. I mean, I watched the North London derby, and Arsenal were better, but Spurs weren't as bad as they were yesterday. I mean, it's shocking. Everton can't score. I mean, they came to you the other week. So I feel bad for Ange, but Spurs will reap what they sow. If they think sacking the manager is going to solve anything, again, it's players and ownership there.
Yeah. I mean, 11 defeats though, man. 11. I mean, that's horrendous, right? And I think at the moment he's hanging on a string because
look at the injuries though, Robbie.
Sorry?
Look at their injuries. I mean, that centre-back pairing it's
well,
hard.
It's still Dragerson, who he brought in, right? And he's still and yesterday it was Davis, wasn't it? Davis was back. So, that's still their backup. Listen, their squad is not good enough. And we have to factor in the fact that they've had a lot of injuries. Definitely they've had a lot of injuries, right? But then we've seen teams remember teams like Newcastle last year, the amount of injuries they had. Brighton, the amount of injuries that they've still not been as bad as what Tottenham have been. They've been dreadful. I mean, you are right. I mean, they need to give him more help. Like, even in this January transfer window, I've been surprised that they bought a goalkeeper, but I'm surprised they haven't gone out and bought another centre back. But it just is going horrendously wrong for them. But great for David Moyes to give them that lift. And that was a big win for them, especially with all the other bottom three teams losing. That was a massive, massive win for David Moyes. Man City, are they back? 6-0 win over Ipswich. They look back to their sort of devastating best in that game. Or was it just the opposition? What do you reckon?
I genuinely think, and I've said it before, and you're going to get a lot of Man City fans moaning about this, but I genuinely think Man City just thought, let's have a bad 2 months on purpose. We'll give up this league, get a bit of sympathy, and we'll get off with it. And then look what's happening. Like, they're spending money. They're giving a 10-year contract to Haaland, which we spoke about on Friday. They're not acting like a club that thinks they're going to get done. And what annoys me about it is, if they get found not guilty, they get found not guilty. But what they did for 10 years, you can't do anymore. Like, you can't do what they did for 10 years. That's the whole point. Otherwise, Newcastle would. So, look, I think Man City next season for the title, I'll probably predict it again. They won't win it this year. But they were never not going to get top four, in my opinion. And yesterday, look, it's been too long. Man City are a good team. And yesterday we saw, glimpses of what they can do. And I suppose they might be a threat for the Cups and the Champions League. Although I think they've got a big game tomorrow, haven't they?
Big game, PSG. That's a huge game for them as well. You know what I mean? They won't find PSG as easy as they did Ipswich, but that's a massive game for them.
You in a couple of weeks, aren't they, as well? So yeah,
a couple of weeks time they got us. Yep. I'm being disrespectful there, Mark, because you know what? I'm mentioning Man City before mentioning Nottingham Forest, who are actually, in third place, same points as Arsenal. They beat Southampton at home, expected, of course. 3-2, Southampton did launch a bit of a comeback at the end, but they are flying, aren't they?
Especially because Southampton, as we saw at Old Trafford, they're a good team. No, but look, you know what? I said this morning. I was taking my lad to school, and I said, "You never will guess what the game of the weekend is next weekend." And he said, "Oh, has Man City got Chelsea?" I said, "No, 3:00, Bournemouth, Forest." Who would have thought that? 11. You won't get a ticket. They only got 11,000, but I mean, I think that's the brilliance of the Premier League. It's the 20th of January, and Bournemouth Forest next week is massive, because if whoever wins that, if Forest win that, I'd seriously say top 5 is looking very, very good. And it would be great. It would be great if we could get a Bournemouth or a Forest or, a Brighton into the top 5. It would be good.
Yeah, well, for me, performance of the weekend, without a doubt, Bournemouth going away to Newcastle and not just beating them, beating up on them. 4-1. They were absolutely incredible. A hat-trick for Patrick Kluivert. His dad, who played for Newcastle, only ever scored 1 goal for them. He goes there and gets a hat-trick. They are some team, aren't they? They're a good side.
I think their manager, their players, there'll be so many clubs like Arsenal, Liverpool, etc., European clubs looking at that, because not just that performance, but it's been going on for all season. It is incredible with the resources they've got, the football they play. And as you said, I mean, Newcastle had won 6 in a row in the Premier League. And in our predictions, I remember I said, never go against Newcastle as good as Bournemouth are. And they absolutely battered them. And I just think that, again, it just shows any championship club, but Premier League club, that if you get the right people in with the right backing, it really doesn't matter how big your name is or how big your stadium is. This league is rewarding if you get the right infrastructure. And look, that's a lesson to United. It's a lesson to Spurs. It's a lesson to any club. And I've been critical of Bournemouth because I think 11,000 is rubbish in the Premier League to have a stadium like that. But that's not the manager, players' fault and the fans' fault, is it? And they, on that performance, they'd probably fill 40,000 next weekend against Forest.
No, it's a brilliant performance, right? And I think we're seeing here how competitive this league is. Teams like Bournemouth, Brighton, going to Old Trafford. That's the third time in a row they've won there. These teams, not only are they good, they're confident now that they can go to places and win. They're not like going there and say, "Oh, I'm going to Old Trafford, I'm going to the Emirates, I'm going to the Etihad." They're like, "No, actually, we get together today. We've got good players. We can actually win." And that's what's making the league really competitive at the top this year. But it was a great win in another really competitive game for Liverpool. This was massive for them. It was. I watched the game, right, and honestly, like, Brentford had chances, didn't put them away. Liverpool had chances as well. But then what Liverpool have got, that ability to bring on more firepower. They bought on Nunes, they bought on Elliott, they bought on Chiesa, change it in their favour. And it was Darwin Nunes who gets slated a lot of times with 2 big goals and a big, big win for Liverpool.
It's funny because I look at that game and your game, and I was actually out on Saturday because we had like a family thing going on, and I checked on the flash score thing 0-0, and I looked at the stats, and Liverpool had like 30-something shots, and I thought that's going to be another one of those games that Liverpool draw. And then a little bit later, we're having the meal, and I put the Arsenal thing up, and it said 3-2, and I looked at it and I switched it off, and then I went around the bar and I saw someone I hadn't seen in ages who was a West Ham fan, and he was like, "Oh, I'm good, we lost, but at least Arsenal dropped it." I went, "What are you on about?" He says, "No, it's 2-2. I had to check my phone. Normally it flashes saying VAR or something like that." So I was shocked actually how that went. I thought Arsenal had won and Liverpool had dropped points, but it turns out being the other way. But yeah, I mean, the thing about Liverpool's mini dip is that they've not lost, have they? Even the draws, they find a way to win. Unfortunately, they are the best team in the Premier League at the moment, and I don't see anybody doing anything about it for various reasons. I think Arsenal were the only hope, and
well, Arsenal,
the injuries have caused problems.
Yep, Arsenal, of course. I was at the game, 2-0, absolutely cruising, right? But I think Mikel Arteta said it himself, right? The lack of, which he's partly responsible for, but the lack of injuries and them not buying that striker in the summer, but a lack of firepower, right? So basically, you saw Villa, they changed the energy in the game. They were able to bring on Leon Bailey. They were able to bring on John Duran and players like that. The energy was still up with them. And they launched a good comeback and a couple of lapses in concentration for Arsenal. Thomas Partey on both goals, really. I thought it was a lapse of concentration by him. He's playing as a right back. It's not his position. And maybe thought, oh, the game's been won now, so we can relax a bit. No, it's the Premier League. And Arsenal giving up a 2-goal lead. Thought that we'd won it in the end. But Havertz adjudged to have touched the ball, which, by the way, is quite a lot of Arsenal fans have been replaying back. They replayed it back in the actual game, and fans weren't happy. They thought it had come off his chest. It's really hard to tell.
Well, they should favour the. I've not, to be honest, I haven't seen that because that's the only game I didn't really keep an eye on. But if it's borderline and it was given, then it should stay given, shouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you know what? It's one of those ones that you see it from one angle, it looks like handball. You see it from another angle, it looks like it's come off his chest. He was adamant it come off his chest. But anyway, we threw it away. We were 2-0 up. There's no point in blaming that, right? We were 2-0 up. And I think you're right. At the moment, it's Liverpool's to lose. Arsenal, they don't lose games, really. Arsenal have only lost 2 games this season. Liverpool have lost 1, but too many games drawn. And that is down to the lack of firepower that Arsenal have with no Saka. Jesus is out now. I think unless Arsenal go and address that in this transfer window, over the next couple of weeks, go and get in a couple of players that are going to be difference makers, I don't think we can catch Liverpool because they just have too much firepower and we lack it. So hence, teams ain't really going to beat us much, but we draw games because we just lack that. We lack that killer.
I mean, you get it. You mentioned Spurs, you get it, United. It's happening at Arsenal as well. I just think it's a bit of a shame how there is a lack of communication from the the boards of these football clubs, because I think it's so baffling why Arsenal haven't done it. And live by the sword, die by the sword. If you don't want to spend money and you think that's the way to win the league, then tell your fans that's what you're going to do. But I think Arsenal fans are sort of left in this grey area of, have we got money? Are we waiting for the right type of player? This, that, and the other. But I look at it and I go, look, you're better off taking a risk in January than sitting and doing nothing, because they're running out of energy, Arsenal, and they've got a very big few months. I mean, the FA Cup's gone now. The league's getting close to being gone. Carabao Cup's probably gone. Champions League. But 3 weeks ago, they were all on. And if they'd hit the January transfer window with a bit of, oomph and planning, you'd have beat us, you'd have beat Newcastle, you'd have won yesterday, and everything's still on. So people, it's almost like a dirty word to say we need to spend, but every club in history, and especially the Premier League, was built on spending. So Yeah.
And you can have your best laid plans, which they reckon Arsenal have got for the, but it's too late. Right, you've got to adjust. But anyway, big win for Liverpool. Liverpool in the driving seat. Just running through a couple of the others, the results quickly. Leicester losing at home to Fulham 2-0, and West Ham not much of a bounce there so far. Losing at home,
well, aren't they?
Losing at home to Crystal Palace. Yeah, Palace going well, and that was a dreadful result for West Ham, and they look awful in that game. So let's just remind everybody of how the league stands at the moment. Liverpool's 6 points clear with a game in hand. That is against Everton on 50 points. Arsenal in second place on 44 points. Forest third, just back on goal difference with 44 points. Manchester City now moving to the top 4 on 38. Newcastle dropped back 1 with that shock defeat on 38. Chelsea play tonight. And if they win tonight, they could go back into the top 4. They play against Wolves. And look at Bournemouth in 7th on 37 points. Going to the bottom after the weekend's results. Well, listen, Southampton, we know they're gone still on 6 points. They don't want to not beat that Derby horrendous record of points, but they're only on 6. Leicester, 14 points. Ipswich, 16 points. Wolves on 16 points, but out of the bottom 3. They got a chance if they win tonight to move ahead of those bottom 3. And Everton, that was a big win for them. 20 points now, 4 points clear of the drop zone. Let's get into our team of the weekend. Team of the week, should I say. In goal, you want to go first, or shall I go first?
Yeah. Well, I went with close to your heart, Martinez at Villa. I thought he was a good shout. I thought he had a good game. So I went with him.
Dunno, man. Dunno. That first goal, could he have done a bit better with that? I went for Alisson. Clean sheet, pressurized game, was under City. You know, I mean, he made a couple of good saves in that game as well. I think Alisson.
I got to be honest, I was trying to wind you up a bit there because I did say I didn't even watch the Arsenal Villa game. So no, yeah, I mean, I couldn't really think of anybody. But yeah, clean sheet, Alisson.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly not Onana. As long as it's not Onana.
Well, you know what? I thought I've noticed you haven't got the jokes this week like last week. You know what I mean? Where you should I put Havertz and that? I was gonna mention Onana, but I thought. I saw you.
Mate, that third goal. I mean,
you're watching along.
It gets.
You're watching along. Your response to that third goal was, oh my god. Right. Anyway, right back.
I've gone Trent. I've stuck with the. Oh, sorry, you go.
I went Trent as well.
Yeah, I think he had a very good game, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a good game. Trent, left back.
I've gone second week in a row doing this. I've gone Kirkes at Bournemouth. I think.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
Great goal as well.
Yeah.
This guy's a player, man. He's
going to end up at Liverpool, though, isn't he? I think.
Aren't United interested in him as well? You said about a left back.
Yeah. But would you go to Liverpool or go United? I mean.
But Kirkes, yep. I've gone centre backs. One of them have gone for Hyson. He's the Bournemouth's. He's another good player. Been linked with Real Madrid, yes.
Yeah, I've got him.
Who else you got?
I was tough. I mean, I thought Tarkowski had a good game. Anderson at Fulham played well, and I went with Lacroix at Palace. But I mean, I think any of those three really sort of around the same, aren't they? So
I went Anderson at Fulham as well. I mean, Lacroix's a good one as well. That is a good one. I'll probably go because they kept a clean sheet, and you've got Anderson. I've gone Anderson. So let's go Anderson. Yeah. All right, midfield 3.
Well, I wanted to go in the midfield and sort of pack it with attacking players because there's so many attacking players that don't get in. But I tried to be fair on a balanced midfield 3. So I went with Idrissa Gueye at Everton, who had a good game. I went Sander Berge at Fulham, and then I went Phil Foden at Man City. But that has left me not being able to put certain attackers in like Ndia at Everton and Wilson at Fulham. And
that Ndia was good. He was good, man. I went Foden. Got 2 goals. I put Kluivert because is he exactly? I mean, he's more of attacking mid, isn't he? Than I don't know, or am I just shoehorning in? And
I have got him, but he's in my front 3. So if we're moving players around, I don't disagree with that.
I went Declan Rice. I thought he had a great game, man, and just to solidify that midfield as well. But I thought he had a great game against Villa. Didn't deserve to be on the losing side. Obviously, you know. Bit biased there. I was there in the flesh, but I like.
Well, let's go. Let's go. Gay, Rice, and Foden.
Gay, Rice, and Foden. Okay.
Yeah.
And then up front.
Yeah, I went with Kluivert, Darwin Nunez, and Doku, but you know, Mateta and Wood deserve a shout out as well.
Yeah, I went Mateta, Nunez, and Mitoma, but because we're moving Kluivert to the front, I think Kluivert definitely has to be in there. Hat trick at St James's Park, you're in there. Nunez definitely has to be in there because he won the game for Liverpool, and that's a massive win. And I think Mitoma at your place, because yes, Doku was brilliant in that game in the 6-0 win, but I expect them to beat Ipswich. Whereas Mitoma, going to Old Trafford, even though United, I know what all the things that have been said, but that's a difficult game, to go away to Old Trafford. I'd go Mitoma. I
thought I was going to get away with not having any Brighton players in it. I mean, if we're going to talk about Brighton, to be fair, I mean, yeah, Mitoma can go in, but I thought the other lad on the wing, Minter.
Yeah, he was good as well. You know what? It could be, but Mitoma, I'm going Mitoma but Minter scored as well, didn't he?
Yeah, but I suppose if you were going to put someone on the left and someone on the right, I'd go Kluivert, Nunez, Mitoma, but yeah, right, I mean, both.
I'm going to give you the last call on the Brighton player. Is it Minter or Mitoma? You watched all 90.
I genuinely think Mitoma's a better player, but I think Minter had the better game. I would go with him. Yeah.
All right, we'll go with him then. So Minter, Nunez, and Kluivert in our front three. So that's our team of the week. Mark, thank you very much for coming on today. I know it's been painful.
Therapy. It's always therapy to talk about something else. I love football.
It is, you know what, right? It is therapy. Sometimes I come out of that ground and I've got to speak to fans and I'm dreading it. And then after you've spoken to a few people who say exactly how you feel, it is a bit of therapy. You know what I mean?
People don't give what we've built with Arsenal Fan TV and United Stand credit. These communities actually, I wouldn't say they save lives, but they certainly help people's mental health, because at least you've got somewhere you can go to.
100%, man. You can go there, you can talk about it, you can share your thoughts with people who are feeling the same amount of pain as you are. But listen, Mark, thank you very much, mate. Have a great day. Who have you guys got in this Europa League this week, right?
It'd be a tough game. Rangers on Thursday. I was looking forward to it because it's a big game, but I actually think it's a game we could lose now.
Oh, that's a great game, that is, and that was a great game when they played Spurs. They'll put it in. And we've got Dynamo Zagreb Tuesday night. Sorry, what about Wednesday night, right? So looking forward to that one as well. Big game for Arsenal. Mark, thanks very much. We'll be back on Friday, of course, over on That's Football, and we'll be looking ahead to the weekend's Premier League games. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe here to DR Sports.